The network is the access point to all information. Therefore, you must understand computer networking and have a fundamental, grounded set of basic information relative to the TCP/IP protocol, which forms the basis of communication on the web. Devices such as routers, firewalls, hubs, switches, and so forth create the infrastructure of local area networks on a corporate scale and on the internet on a global scale. Securing such devices is fundamental to protecting the environment and outgoing and incoming communications traffic. You'll need to be aware of security risks and controls that are available in public switched networks and public switched infrastructure, as these types of infrastructure are often used for computer communications. It's important to understand physical devices, network topologies, and storage media when analyzing network security. The network security domain covers topics such as basic networking, LAN security, firewalls, intrusion detection services, transport layer security, perimeter security, and network access control. The second domain that's covered in the Security Plus exam is the compliance and operational security domain. Now, tools are great, but processes and best practices rule the day in this section of the exam. Now, before we exert effort into protecting resources, we need to know how to measure risk in terms of value. Now, there's no point in spending $100,000 on a great firewall to protect a data set that's of little to no value. Security issues such as compliance, risk, and risk mitigation, as well as basic forensic procedures and environmental controls, are used to increase things such as reliability, resiliency, and maintain business continuity. The importance of mitigating risk and calculating the likelihood and expected losses of various risk is covered in this section of the exam, along with dealing with third-party integration, service level agreements, and how to maintain operations through business continuity best practices. This section of the exam also covers environmental controls, such as hot and cold aisles in data centers, high availability, and confidentiality, integrity, and availability best practices are also covered to ensure that data is secure, verified, and that data is accessible. Securing your resources is a challenge in any working environment. After all, resources are now commonly hacked through software, hardware, and peripherals. The third domain of the Security Plus exam requires that you understand how to identify and minimize system threats to thwart would-be attackers, and that you recognize the different types of assessment tools that are available to discover security threats and vulnerabilities. Be sure to give yourself plenty of time to review all these concepts, because there are quite a few. Now, the following list identifies some of the key areas from the third domain, which constitutes roughly 21% of the Security Plus exam. These include types of malware attacks, social engineering methods, wireless attacks, application attacks, and you'll need to understand the various types of mitigation and deterrent techniques against these attacks. In Domain 3, you'll learn how to implement assessment tools and techniques to discover security threats as well as vulnerabilities. Now, within the realm of vulnerability assessments, you'll need to explain the proper use of penetration testing versus vulnerability scanning. While the network may be the road that hackers take to get to the data, the applications, hosts, and data represent the destination. Now, the police may have great roadblocks and inspection points in place, but if the trespasser bypasses those controls and reaches the bank and the safe's unlocked, well, then the money's gone. The same holds true with networks, hosts, and databases. Application, data, and host security become the major focus of security as we move to a more web-based world, and exploits such as cross-site scripting and SQL injections are an everyday occurrence. Web-based apps and database servers contain a wealth of valuable data. Internal application servers store a wide variety of data from web pages to critical data and sensitive information. Regulatory compliance issues make it necessary to have sound procedures in place for the security of applications data, and hosts. Domain 4 of the Security Plus exam requires that you are familiar with hosting and securing systems, applications, and organizational data. Now, when we talk about access control and identity management, we're covering areas like user logins and permissions to resources. These resources can be things such as websites, databases, operating systems, and application servers. Access control and identity management is crucial to maintaining and securing an IT environment. Various controls and protocols such as Radius and TACX+, along with directory services and authentication services such as Kerberos, LDAP, and SAML, provide authentication, identification, and authorization. And these tools can be used to ensure that users are connected securely with access to resources that they need. Technologies and concepts that are covered in this section include tokens and multi-factor authentication. Modern applications make extensive use of cryptography. When we access our bank accounts and make payments via PayPal, we're using online cryptography to keep our information safe so that only the intended recipients and senders are communicating with one another, and that the information is unmodified. Now, without cryptography, there would be no e-commerce or internet as we know it. Cryptography has 4 primary functions. The first function is to provide for confidentiality. This is provided by ensuring that only authorized parties can access data, and that encryption is used to protect information from unauthorized individuals. The second function of cryptography is to provide for data integrity. Integrity verifies the data has not been altered in transit. Hashing algorithms and other technologies are used to ensure that information hasn't been modified, whether in movement or on the hard drive. The third function of cryptography is to provide authentication, and this is the process of verifying that the sender is who they say they are, and this is done using technologies such as digital certificates. The fourth capability of encryption is non-repudiation, and this means that one party cannot deny that they sent a message to another party. And this is typically implemented through the use of asymmetric cryptography.